About time, right? Is that what you said? Okay. Morning.
Morning, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
James,
Good.
good to see you.
You too.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Mark, good morning. Okay, everybody, welcome to West DFW REI Group, the watering hole for North Texas real estate investors. And just want to make sure that it's recording, and it is. Okay. I'm a little gun shy about this recording because I've had some problems in here, so. Okay, just a couple admin notes. Turn off your cell phones, please. Can you do that? Start this audio just in case. This is why I usually take a little bit of a break in between to make sure everything is turned on. Okay, now we're ready. Seriously, I'm ready. Okay, to all the sponsors and volunteers that help us each month, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you. Paul and Adele, you can thank them for the coffee. Paul's been helping us with the coffee for quite a few months now, and you're going to hear from him here in a few minutes as well. But seriously, we do appreciate all the support we get from the sponsors. Please turn off your cell phones, or you can buy breakfast. Just joking. Okay, restrooms are right out behind this room. Go right around the corner, and it's right back in that corner. Deal table and sponsors table is in the front of the room normally, but it got moved to the back today. So everything back here, please come take samples of everything. Take especially all the stuff for the sponsors so that you have their information. And if you have deals, you're welcome to print them out and put them back here. But what's really the better way to move your deals? On the website provided, but also come early here and network and talk to people about it. Okay, I mean, in person is usually the best way to do stuff, right? The website is great because it hits a much bigger audience because there's a lot of people looking at the site. And oh, by the way, I didn't say this earlier, but we don't charge you for promoting your deals. If you got a deal, we just want to help you get it sold quick, so to help you be successful. So there's no cost to that. There are other REIA groups that if you present a deal at the meeting, they want a piece of that sale. And if you want to get text notifications as a reminder to these meetings, I know everybody's email gets bogged down and we get busy, but if you want a text reminder, then please text to that, text the word OK to text to that phone number. And then when we send the text reminders, you'll get them. I don't send it, I don't use that system to spam you or anything else. I send it for reminders about our meetings and maybe a special deal of some sort, but we haven't even done that. So what do? We meet, network, joint venture, motivate, provide moral support. Is moral support important for new people?
Yes.
Absolutely. If you hang out with family that are negative and they say, you can't buy houses with no money, and that's all you hear from them, that's kind of what you're kind of demotivated, right? If they don't believe you and they keep telling you you can't do it. For many people, they quit the business because of that. You need to hang out with like-minded people, people in the room, this room that, have done it and can help you do it. So that moral support is very important. Educate, mentor, learn to buy and sell more deals with like-minded investors. Okay? You want to hang out with like-minded people. Agents, vendors, with the goal of helping others be successful and make more money. That's why we're here, right? Make more money. Unless you're like Lenny, he's got so much you don't know what to do with. Come network, learn, and do more deals. The West DFW REI Group. So these are sponsors that you can trust. These sponsors have been with us for a very long time. Not many have left us over the years. There's been a couple. But those are typically the ones that weren't doing what they said they would do when it comes to taking care of our members. Okay? This is very important to me to make sure our sponsors take care of you. So we're going to hear from a couple of them today. And let's start with Mr. Lane. Okay.
Hey, I'm Lenny Hudgens. I'm a sponsored group, been sponsored group probably for 5-7 years. Roof Max, I'm down here. Roof Max is also a product. I've been in business since 1980. I've been a roofer since 1977. We are in the roofing business. And I let everybody know, if you'll call me when you're going to go buy a house, let me go look at it and tell you better drop your bid by about $12,000 because it needs a new roof. I can inspect your roof and I can tell you whether it will pass a home inspection or if it will pass a insurance inspection. Insurance inspections are really important if you're planning on flipping a house and selling it. Because if it won't pass an insurance inspection, it's going to hold you up in your closing because they're going to say, can't insure this roof because it needs a new roof. I've had a lot of realtors call me on Sunday night and say, Lenny, can you roof my house tomorrow? Our closing's at 5 o'clock. And I've accommodated that with luckily more time, but that's what happens when you try to sell a house and there's banks involved. But Roof Max is another product we're a dealer of Roof Max, and Roof Max is a product we can spray on your roof. It doesn't give you a new roof, it doesn't seal anything, it rejuvenates your shingle. We spray it with soy oil and it puts back the oil that it's lost over the years. It'll bring a shingle within 2% of its original flexibility when it's a brand new shingle. After we spray it in 48 hours, you can take the shingle off and roll it up like a newspaper. We suggest doing that from 7 to 15 year roof. You got to get them in that because we get people call us if it's a miracle drug, and it's not. It doesn't. When the shingle's shot, it's shot. But I'll tell you, that's one thing we do. We're honest roofer. And like I say, I'm along with Tim about hanging with like-minded people. This has been one of the best groups I've been in. It's a little shallow today. I don't know if it's called Mother's Day. A lot of them may be out of town. But like I said, I used to hang with a bunch of strawberries. It seemed like I was always in a jam. Hey. Well, that's
Lenny's full of jokes.
Well, that's like I say, I was always a tomato in school because everybody was telling me you need to catch up. But, hey, I'm here all day, folks. But speaking of a tomato, because I always had red hair, they always called me a tomato head. I'll tell you a quick story about a kid that was born with nothing but a head. This kind of helps you out in your business and knowing when to get a deal, when to back out. You got to know what's a good deal, what's not a bad deal. This kid was born with a head, had nothing but a head. He'd look out the window and every day you see all the kids playing out there in the playground. He's just, man, I wish I could run out there and play with him. And every day at 12 o'clock, old Nasty McNorth would come by and snarl at him and laugh at him. One day he got so bad he prayed to God and said, please, I need a body. Let me have something. And poof, lightning struck. Cowboys won a Super Bowl. You know, all kind of miracles were happening. And all of a sudden, a leg popped out, another leg, arm. And the little boy was so happy. He jumped up and first thing he did was go across the street and play with the kids. He runs out across the street, bam, car hits him and kills him. What the moral of the story is, quit while you're ahead, so I'm gonna go sit down.
Thank you, Lenny. So Lenny has done, over the years, has done quite a few roofs for me. And, he wouldn't keep coming back if he wasn't doing a good job for me, so, I can tell you that much.
I got a question.
Good.
What's the percent difference between spraying a roof and replacing it?
About 25% less.
25%.
I mean, it's actually 75%, it's 25% of the cost.
Oh,
Spraying a typical house be 2,500 to 3,000, where a roof will cost you 12 to 15,000. It's a good alternative, but it's got to be a right fix. When we go out there, we seal all the penetrations, we spray your roof, we paint all your boots to make it look nice, and plus the shingles will look more pristine because you won't have granules falling off. It helps preserves the granules, and it just a good trade-off when people look up there and see all the boots painted and a roof that's not kind of wore out, and it helps put the flexibility back in it. So when you feel it, it doesn't feel crisp.
so I heard you say 7 to 15 years. If it's on its end at 15 years and you spray it, how much more time do you get?
Well,
with that roof?
we guarantee the flexibility to stay 5 years, but if it's a 30-year roof, we'll bring it to within 2%. By physics, you should get another 28 years out of it. But here in Texas, are you from Texas or this area?
Kind of.
Well, we get hailstorms here every year. I replace roofs about every 7 to 10 years. So it's mainly to push it down the road or to get your house sold. They can get it insured and then wait for a hailstorm. And when they call me, I give them that transferable warranty goes to your owner. When they call me with a hailstorm, I'll put that $3,000 they paid to roof max it towards their deductible when they need a new roof.
It's a rare thing to go 30 years on a roof here. Yeah, because of the head. I've got one on my house right now that we've probably had 15 years. And it still looks good, but we've been lucky. But the reason it was replaced is it was totally destroyed in that big hailstorm we had 18 years ago ago. Softball size hail. Totaled out my daughter's car and damaged roofs on 6 houses.
I hate to hear that.
So, Lenny and I were talking about doing roof max on one of our rentals. It's got the right roof for it. We need to get together and work that out. But we're talking about either, I don't know how, we need to talk about this first before we decide, but we want to do a group event and go to my house and have everybody see it, or do we just record it and then use that in the class or and part of the advertisement, but I'm definitely interested because I mean your quote I think is like 2,800 or 2,000 something, and that's a whole lot cheaper than 10, 12 grand for a new roof. So I'm very curious to see just how good this stuff is, and so let's make sure we follow up and get it started. So. Okay, Ruth Ann, good morning.
Good morning.
So all the sponsors info, by the way, is over on the sponsors page on the website. You've got an email, a phone number, and a website for all of the sponsors. So be sure you go there and look for any kind of sponsor you need, any kind of contract support you need. Go look there first because we're trying to add some more. But and if you need to, call me and I'll tell you if I have somebody I recommend. Good morning.
Well, I'm Ruth Ann Dunn with Service First Mortgage, and I've been with them 11 years, and I've been in business 30 years. And The reason I have something with me is it's always changing, always changing. You know, you hear horror stories about 2008 and everybody blamed the mortgage industry, but it was because people need creative programs. And we have another sponsor who's a hard money lender, but I'm a traditional. And so I do any kind of loan you've ever heard of, plus a lot we probably haven't thought about. And some of those even stated income staff. So I'm just fixing to close on a $900,000 refinance cash out from him, who's not showing his tax returns. He owns several restaurants. He's showing us his deposits. We're making him $900,000. So things like that. Also, most of y'all are more interested in the debt service coverage ratio loans, because just like this man, he didn't want us to go by what he pays taxes on. So I can literally get you a cash out on your property if the rent is going to cover the payment or close to it. Okay, depending on which source I use for that. And those are 75 minimum, 75,000 pledge minimum, and up to 2 million. I can do short-term rentals. Okay, remember, they got a bad rap right now, but they rent for so much that your debt service coverage ratio, what a dream. And we can get you those in all but 5 states, including Texas. I mean, all but 5 states, because the way they, I guess I read in my notes here, the way they promoted it to me was 45 states, including Texas. And we can't get you those in Arizona, California, Nevada, Oregon, or Utah. So it's 44 plus Texas. So anyway, that's interesting. And credit scores don't have to be, I'm going to get, high, 680 most of the times. I can also get those stated incomes that we're talking about. I've already closed one office building last week. We can handle office buildings, warehouses, automotive shops, and the rates are, start under 10%. But I'd rather give you a traditional loan to buy your first investment property with 20% down to refer. We talked about all the creative ways for you to get started in this business. One was the traditional loan. So my information is back there. Let me know if you need me.
Thank you, Jan. Again, everybody's information is on the sponsor page on the website. I'll introduce Paul when he gets up to speak. Longhorn Investments is our hard money lender. They've been with us a very long time. They have some great programs for certain types of investment property. Ryan's a great guy, stays quite busy. Their business has really grown this last year. So I would encourage you to actually reach out to all the sponsors on the sponsors page and connect with them, go buy them coffee or lunch and see how they can help you. Real Estate IQ is our motivated seller lead list sponsor. And, they have a standard lead package and they have a premium lead package. The standard just means you don't get the skip trace information, whereas you get all that on the premium leads. Again, they have 10 or 11 types of leads that they provide you. So that's pretty good. We're taking the work away from you having to create your own filters and your own list and going to do the research. They do all that for you. August REI, talked to Amy yesterday. They are a third-party servicing company. They're servicing your owner finance note. So if you're selling houses with owner finance, they manage that for you. Okay. They do it very well. They've been doing it for many, many years. I can't remember how many millions of dollars that they've managed. But it only costs $35. And if you write the note properly, the buyer's paying for that. So it doesn't cost you anything. So they're collecting the payment, making the payment to the underlying mortgage company if there is a mortgage on it. And hopefully you have some leftover
which is your profit, right? Hopefully you get a profit check from them every month. They also do the end of the year tax statement, and they will do the initial default letter if your buyer is in default. Mark Garcia, our title company attorney, the other day or last month, that made a comment that I don't think I want them to do that. You know, foreclosure is a legal process and very critical to be done right. So if you use them, I would say, and you get a default situation, you may want to have them not send that default letter and let somebody like Mark do it. Okay. But very good. Amy's over in Garland and she lives in Rockwall, so it's hard for her to get here all the time. But I believe she's gonna try and come next month. Robin Jackson with Bearcat Capital. Robin is a note buyer. She will buy defaulted notes and good notes. And she's been doing that for many years. She's been involved in commercial real estate many years, but now she just focuses on notes. She is happy to sit down with you and help you go through and structure a note properly, because if you want to create a note and have any desires to sell it in the future, you want that note structured properly with the right amount of down payment, with a first and a second, the right amount of interest rates. All those things matter to a potential note buyer in the future. So very important. Kimball Property Management. John is our property management company of choice. John told me yesterday that he's just finished his brokerage license. So he's going off on his own, and you'll be seeing Kimball Property Management changing. He told me what the name's gonna be, but I don't remember. So he'll be giving me that new information, and that he's gonna continue as a sponsor here. He'll just be doing it on his own instead of working for somebody else. He's done a couple properties for us and quite a few others in the group as well. He likes to stay in Tarrant County as much as possible, but go to Weatherford. But he doesn't run all over Dallas and Collin County and stuff like that. He's serious about his business. He inspects the properties annually, does a written report on his inspection. And he wants to really manage your property, not just say his property. Okay. And Simplified Title, Martin Garcia. He is our title company of choice. We've been closing all of our investor deals with him for many years. Very good, very helpful, and has been a sponsor of this group for many years as well. He is going to be teaching us next month. He's going to be talking about things going on in the title world, things he sees that affect us as investors. There's a lot of scams and crooked stuff going on, and he wants to talk to us about what to be looking for. And he said he's just seen some absolutely ridiculous stuff that people try to get away with. So it's going to be a good event to be here for. Okay. Questions on sponsors at all? Okay. Think Realty membership. I mentioned it earlier. It's free membership. You can scan the QR code or click on that link. And there's a link on the group website as well. But you can become a free or create a free account with them. When you do that, you have access to all these other companies at discounted rates, discounted products. The one I use a lot is Home Depot Pro, but the paint companies, the flooring companies, they all have great prices. And I would encourage you all to go get signed up. Now, just because you click here and create the Think Realty account doesn't mean you're ready to go. When you get into the Think Realty website, you then have to register with each of those companies in order to go use them as one of your benefits. Sponsors, you know, we're always looking for more. We're looking for these kinds of people these types of services to become sponsors of the group. This is not a total list, but this is just some examples. Okay, if you know anybody that you've worked with, that you trust, that you've had a good experience with, or investor friendly, you can trust your grandmother with, that kind of thing, have them come see me and let's see if we can't get them involved in the group. Need more deals? That's what we're here for, right? Anybody in here not want more deals? So, you can go click right there. Again, that's taking you off to the property listings page on the website. So you can go see what's currently available. You're gonna get the email notice only comes out once a week. On the property listing. So if you wanna see, if you wanna try and be the first one to know if there's a new property available, go visit the property listings page frequently. Upcoming events, that link there takes you right to the calendar. We were on the calendar earlier. Go visit that often and see what's coming up, what's being scheduled. As far as the big picture goes, again, you'll see a change coming out for the Lunch and Learn next Thursday. I'll be adding an address to it. And if anybody has a favorite restaurant that has a big space where we can meet, a back room or something, then please send that info to me and I'll check it out, add them to our list. Who was at the Lunch and Learn at the Pancake House? Nobody? Oh, wow. Pancake House was a pretty good place, I thought. Nice and big. The service was pretty quick.
Pancakes.
They have pancakes,
That's part of it.
and they had a couple other things. But that was a really good meeting location, I thought, and we had a really good turnout there. And that's one of the benefits to go into the Lunch and Learns is it's a different crowd. You know, people a lot of times they got to go eat, right? So take off to go eat lunch, and sometimes those same people can't come here. So you're networking with a little bit different group, and that's why we like to move that around different parts of the Metroplex as well. And our ladies group, I mentioned it earlier, new group, only have had 2 meetings so far. I was not there, of course, but I would encourage you to attend and pass the word to any other investor ladies that you know that may be interested. We're just getting it started. We're trying to figure out how it's going to be formatted, who's going to be teaching, what are the ladies interested in related to investing. And I think JJ is going to do a great job with doing that. So if you have any suggestions for us, please reach out to myself or JJ, and we'll try and implement. Okay, topic of the month, Rehab 101. How many have rehabbed houses? You have? Don't try it. All right, who else again? I'm sorry. Mark, James, okay. No? And somebody's about to.
Have started.
You've started, okay. First one? All right, so, I'm gonna let Paul give you his background when he comes up, but he's been in the business a long time.
That's where all the gray comes from.
Yeah, I know. Paul and I have known each other for many years, and you've probably all heard me talk about my big house in Weatherford that we just finished. That came out gorgeous, and it sold quickly. That was a good thing. We had very little in the way of buyer requirements to repair from the home inspection. Actually, we had 2 home inspections, 2 buyers. The first one didn't want anything done. They just wanted this house. unfortunately, they couldn't get their financing straight by the cutoff, or they were gonna lose their entire earnest money, so they terminated. Then they tried to come back later. They did. But I got a new buyer, and this was a $625,000 house. Put it on the market on a Friday, 2-hour open house Saturday. First time we had 7 or 8 buyers through it, had a contract on Monday. That fell apart, did it all over again, put it on the market Friday. Open house Saturday, had 5 or 6 buyers this time. And Monday had it under contract again. That buyer was bringing $350,000 cash to the table. So they were a pretty solid buyer, and that closed on time. We had I don't even think our buyer was the fussy one and had asked for some things to be done. I think it was the agent, just because of some things that were said. But we got it all taken care of, and it closed on time. And that second offer was for $630, not $625, but I ate it all up in holding costs because it was another month before I could close. So, but we still got it done, and I think it was nice, wasn't it? Okay. Of course, but it was a very unique house. It was a very big house, 3,700 square feet. You can go on the property listings page on the group website to see all the pictures and stuff. But it came out very nice. So Paul's been a sponsor with us for some time now. I don't remember how long, but it's been a little while. And he's got a lot of experience in a wide variety of areas in construction and rehabbing houses. And with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and let Paul take it from here. I'm gonna switch over to your slides, and here's the clicker. The clicker, or I can click it for you. If that's too much for you.
I'm not gonna do my text after it,
Are you sure?
only sometimes.
Okay, so give me just 1 second.
Doing that. So one of the reasons why we are doing that, back to basics, everybody knows that we're in a different kind of climate for real estate right now. And I have a joy of looking at all kinds of different investors, and there is so many different thought processes and what the real estate market's going to do. Most of them are trash. Everybody just says, "Oh, yeah, I heard this, I heard that." What reality is saying, it's thinking about it. But just like in the Tim's house, they were saying, there's everybody right now saying, "Oh, you can't sell a house. Interest rates are going up. It's hard for rehabbers. It's sitting on the market for forever." And the last 4 or 5 houses we've done, they all sold within 1 or 2 weeks. So it's a little bit longer. You can't sell the next day, although you sold it second. So there's everybody says all kinds of things. And things talking about stay with like-minded people. It's very, very important that you do that. The real estate market will have its ups and downs, but it's still the best arena for me. You can go into stocks or anything else and it's always right now. Ups and downs, stocks, the same way. But right now with the median price going down, then sometimes you might buy a house. I've got one right now. We're doing in Alton City. It was about 340. Now it's about 340. Now I think the ARV is about 320, 329. So we're going to lose a little bit of potential profit on this. But if you take all that into consideration, and you your house, you never have to do it. So that's, you just gotta get back to basics, because a lot of times the last 2 years, we've been very, generously making money out of this on some of these houses, and now things just starting to change. But, we have been a contractor for a residential contractor for over 35 years. I think it's 37 or something. To get to a point of sound. But we've done mostly remodeling work, rehabs. We started rehabs back in 2004, I think it was 2003. Before that, we were home builders. And when we moved here, then it seems like there's everybody and their mother's a home builder down there, so we just remodels. We've rehabbed hundreds of homes over the last 20 years. And like I said, we get to work with all kinds of different investors. I have one investor who thinks you can't sell a home unless you have many buyers in it. But then I have 30 other investors who sell them about it. So everybody has their own little niche they do. I'm also an investor. We buy houses. I only buy maybe 3 houses a year, maybe, because I just have a company there to actually get into looking for properties. And then I'm also a construction consultant. Over the last few years, I found there's a huge need for, I don't want to go do all the work. I've got crews, we do about 10 to 12 houses at a time. But it's more interesting for me now to teach where the new investors, they kind of don't know. There's a lot of needs on, how to get leads, how to buy properties. But there's not a lot of information out there on what to do in rehab, how to do the rehab, whether they're going to get messed over by a contractor. There's a lot of idiot contractors out there, that gives all of us a bad. But so we did several different things. I'll come in as a consultant when you have your own contractor, and I'll walk the property with you and tell them if I didn't do this, and do this is what you expect, and kind of hold your hand along the way. But that seems to be working out very well. Just to kind of teach you the residential side of it, all the stuff that we've come across, issues and stuff that we've had to find ways to get through it. This is some of the topics going to come up. If you have a question, you've got a topic that's not on here. We're trying to keep this to rehab because like lead generation, you can do a whole other meeting on that and everything. We're going to go over non-refundable deposits, how to estimate the repairs quickly, which repair estimates or estimators is out there. Some of the budgeting ideas, basics, the unforeseen budgets, which you need a budget just in case. Tim and I came across one on his house that we did.
Which one was that? There was a couple.
There's a few. And then buyer's information repair list. But if you have any questions, write them down, yell at, throw something at anything. So the non-refundable deposits right now, there's a couple. There's a couple wholesale companies out there I don't really care for. I buy houses from them, but you have to be experienced in order to deal with it. But they started 2 years ago with this non-refundable deposit. If you want to, put in an offer, you got to put a $5,000 non-refundable deposit. You better make darn sure that that's what you want, and let you know the house. I know 3 or 4 different investor friends of mine. They just, thought that was the one, and that guy was a slick talking salesman. And they put the $5,000 down. We went over, walked through the house, and then, he was going to make maybe $5,000. So he backed out of it and lost himself. So I mean, you can buy houses that way, and we've done it. It's just make sure you know what you're doing before you give that deposit. If they tell you, hey, I've got 5, right behind you, it's gonna give me a check. Walk away from the deal if you're not sure. It's either that or you put your $5,000, lose the $5,000, and $5,000 teaching lesson is not the thing to do. But I'd rather not do it. You pay out probably $30,000 for the training, not $32,000. So
I can tell you, I see a lot of those houses Paul's talking about come through my email. as available. Then it's sold, and then it comes back on the market. And that means that they lost that $3,000 to $5,000 non-refundable deposit. That means a new investor out there lost money. And
A lot of new investors don't have money to lose. You know, when you're trying to get into it. Like you're talking about before, getting houses with, no money down. I can tell you that's how I do all of them. I might front money in the beginning, but I'll get back during the weekend. And I have $0 into every house that because I borrow hard money for purchase of property. I have friends from church, family members who want to invest their money. I get them together and they invest it back on rehab and the interest and stuff on that house. Everybody gets paid for the closing. I share the profits with friends from church and everything else. So it's good for everything. But I have zero. But with these deposits, because houses are so few and far between right now, they're just praying about it. And not telling you certain things about the house that they claim they don't know. And they may not know it. I went and looked at a house a couple months ago for a guy in Halton City that because the previous owner tore off this marker and then they left it half torn off, the city tagged it and he said, "Oh yeah, you said carport." That's not the case. I mean, the city thought the city should have to put the garage back up. And now because you're doing that, you have to just bring the house up to code, and then you have to put the brand to say yes. So that's a very important part of it. So there's just a lot of little stuff like that. You just have to be aware of this. I think they're predatory type companies who they just offer you investors.
If you're find yourself meeting with a wholesaler and he's trying to push you, into making that offer now, and if you're not ready and you haven't done your due diligence and are comfortable with it, you need to walk away. We all want houses, but not at the expense of risking losing it. Don't fall for the trick of, well, I've got 4 more buyers coming in 15 minutes, or the open house ends in 10 minutes,
That's fine.
Yeah. So if you're not ready, don't do it. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. You're not going to sleep good at night. That night, don't do it.
And there's so many ways if you're in that position, and if you think it's just a smoking hot deal, and hey, I just write this check, take a breather, tell them you got to go call your partner, whether you have a partner or not, doesn't matter. Just go to the car, walk away or something, call anybody in this business. You can call Tim, you can call me, you can call Bruce about the value of it, or the loan, process, whatever it is. Just verify like you were doing with your house that you just got. Verify that AIV, it's worth it. If you're not sure about it, call someone with JD on the front. It's better to make half the profit than lose one. So there's so many different things you can do, but just be careful about a predator like that. If you're talking about wholesaling, the best thing to do is be an honest wholesaler. And if you're an honest wholesaler, you will sell the houses very, very quick. I've got some wholesalers that call us, well, they call my wife and tell me to do it. She said, "Oh yeah, okay." She half writes about it. And it's up because every time that person has given us the property, the ARV is $30,000-$40,000 more than where it should be. The repair costs are, like we're talking about $4 to repair that house. But they're never right. But we have a select couple of people that may call us. We know it's people like them. Because they've done it like this.
It's really the reason. Part of this is really the reason I prefer not dealing with wholesalers. I prefer to deal with sellers personally, and then you get an option period. So you have plenty of time to figure out if you've got a deal, if you've run the numbers correctly, with your repair estimates correct, your ARV, then you don't have that problem. But buying from these wholesalers that want 5,000 non-refundable and you got to do it in the next 15 minutes.
It's just a hard way to go. Everybody's trying to get a buck at it. And I don't care if the wholesaler brings their deal, they're gonna make 50 grand on wholesale to me, I really don't care. They can make as much money as they can and the numbers still work for me, and that's fantastic. You know, but don't come in and don't smell it. You know, I personally, I don't have time. Because I've had these other houses been doing stuff. It doesn't work for me. Wholesaling, buying from wholesalers is far easier for me. And I do have some people call, hey, my uncle has a house, you buy houses, furniture, and we do deals like that too. But that's how a lot of it on my fucking city house. So just know what you're doing with it. You know. Thank you. And then when you're estimating the repairs on these deals, even if it's not a non-refundable deposit type situation, you will have 100 people behind you trying to get or in front of you, trying to get to these houses and making bids on these houses. And you have to know how to do your estimates quickly. I go to a lot of houses. That's probably more than I should. But and that's one thing I do for all the members here too. If you're a member and you call me and you want me to walk your house with you, then I'll absolutely drop on there and go walk your house. You know, because the success of the members in this group, this is the best we can do. And we've been doing it since 2001, I think. But the success of all the members here is good for all of us. It's good for the sponsors, it's good for the other members. The members can learn from the people who are buying and selling and everything else. So we really want everyone to benefit from it. But a lot of times you may not have the time to sit there and call 15 people and have them come out and take a look at it. Oh, I got to tell my HVAC guy, I got to do this, I got to do this. You know, you need to kind of get used to, does the HVAC look bad? If it looks bad, and if they say, oh yeah, it's not bad on the fence a little bit, but it's working today, then put that in the repair list. And if if you're working it out later, you don't need to do it. But you really need to have a system, and you need to have the costs. It's like, we're running money and say, hey, let's see, what would it be a good average price to put my estimates for an average size house? The way I took a lot of the next one, the repair estimators, there's a ton of different repair estimators out there. You can have them on iPad, your phone. I built my own spreadsheet years ago. Where I just put in the quantities that I did my spreadsheet, then it's about slapping. But on the roofing, I have a valuation for the square footage of the house, and then that gives me, I have a multiplier, so it gives me roughly how big the roof is and how much it would cost if I have to replace that roof. But those are calculations I can myself. But if you call Wayne, he'll come out, he'll drop what you're doing too, and come out and take a look at that. Look at the house and help you out that way too. But have all these numbers on there and use. I'm not real sure how real e-flow works, but is that what it is? Real e-flow?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. I corrected that for you.
Oh, they did.
I just call it real flow, but that is the correct spelling. So real flow is the CRM tool that I use to manage my entire business. But in real flow, they have a repair estimator, which is a real basic, simple, quick estimator that you can use when you're walking through the house. And it's really meant to give you a rough estimate that you can provide with the seller with your offer. So the seller can see your rough estimate. Then they have the next level. Once you get it under contract, they have one called Rehab Planner. The Rehab Planner is connected to the Home Depot SKUs items. And so you just go through and collect, select all the items that you want. The SKU numbers are right there. It tells you what the costs are and everything. And it just now you can hand that statement of work to your contractor. He's got everything you want. So that one takes a little bit of getting used to and stuff, because there's a lot of things to go by, but we haven't used that one. But there's a lot to that.
There's so many different. The website has an estimator in there too.
Yeah. So the premium upgrade to the group site. So you get a free site when you're a member. They have a premium upgrade that is only like $20, $25 a month. And it has a repair estimator built into it with default cost.
Be
But-
careful with default.
Yeah. So, But it's,
Which way?
High or low?
they're out of the national
It's
standards.
national, I just look at both ways. You could throw it off.
Yeah.
$5,000 over, $5,000 under.
But you
Especially
are-
right now, it's not keeping up with it.
But you are able to go in and edit those costs. So you build a relationship with Paul and you get to know what his costs are. Then you just go back and edit the tool. So the next time you go walk through a house, you pull this up on your phone and you just say kitchen, 2 bathrooms, living room, cabinets, all that roof, how many doors, how many windows. You have all those default prices in there and you have a rough estimate when you walk out the door to help you make that offer.
If you're good with Excel, the spreadsheet, for me, the spreadsheets make it so much easier. Because when I come across different things and costs change, commercial, I think it's the same thing, commercial prices all over the place. And it used to be, takes quite a while for prices to change. Now they're like gas prices. And the next day it's crazy. But, and I've signed estimates or signed contracts with people. 2 weeks later, the prices went up 20%. And it's just, well, that's happened on your big house there. But I'm not the type of person to go to Tim and say, hey, we're gonna sign a contract, all the prices are this. Now the materials are 20% higher. So I need to charge you 20% more. I don't do that because I think that's wrong. If you're gonna give an estimate, if we find an unforeseen thing or something, the other price. But if I gave you an estimate, and I'm bidding 10,000, at the end of the day, it's gonna be 10,000, so that's the extra be bid. But, and if I would know, I would know, but,
I think the main point I would say about this is there's a lot of systems out there. Find one that you're comfortable with and will use. That's the key. You got to use it. Don't go in shooting from the hip and not have any system. You don't go in there guesstimate and everything. You need to
I
have.
used to be able to walk through a house because we've done so many. I used to be able to walk through a house in 15 minutes, come up with a rough estimate of what that house is going to take to fix up to my standards. But that was all blown up within the last 2 years because the prices are so high. Labor's going high. Some of these subcontractors I use for tiling and stuff. They can't even spell inflation. They don't know tell me what it is, but their prices are going up with inflation. The labor prices. So it's just the nice thing about the spreadsheets and the checklists is to make sure you cover yourself. Because you can be walking through there and in the heat of the moment, you're talking to the homeowner, you're talking to the wholesaler, whatever it is, you come up with all these things, and you forget about the HVAC, you forget about looking at the roof or something like that. This will give you a checklist to make sure that you cover them everything. And then when I do my spreadsheet, I'll update it with the higher figures, but I never go down. The prices will go down, so I know that I'm about to get a bit. But those estimators are prices. So that way, when you do have a house, that sounds like if you go through there, you take your phone or iPad or whatever it is, and you type it, and you put all your stuff in, you say, okay, from $32,000 to do this, I'll give myself $38,000. See if I'm
Again, the benefit using a system like this, even if it's not correct. By the way, I've never been 100% on I've always overspent what I estimated. But because you're going to be unsure, when you go do your first few estimates, and probably many houses you're going to be uncertain about it. But again, that's why I like dealing with home sellers because I have an option period to clean up my estimates and talk to Paul and get a firm estimate. So I'm not pressed for time and have to commit to that $5,000 non-refundable deposit.
It's a different arena, but it's not. I wouldn't not do it. There's a lot of people who just like to learn about things and then the best thing for new investors to do, jump in a deal and JV with Tim or somebody on it. And that way you got that experience behind you, and half of the income is better than never do. Even if you're willing to change that in the past, the experience and the stuff you really want to express. So, but this is just one of the things is this bullshit. So and I think that's critical because this is where you make the money. You make the money, you buy your house, you make the money. And over the last few years, you could, prices have been jacking up. I think that's
So, Mark and Sarah and I have been talking about some deals, and even though we didn't get the deals so far, did we learn anything?
Learning a lot. I'm kind of definitely do, but we deal with a lot of investors, and unfortunately, some of the new investors, I tend to err on the side of charity. I said, because some of these people, I've gone to 10 or 12 houses with them, and they've never bought it. And then it's sort of fun, I just can't do it. Because I'll have 2-3 hours invested in each individual house. And if I'm just if I like a person, I'll keep it. If they're a jerk to me, I'm sorry, continue. And so, but there's so many different ways and stuff about it. But you got to be right now. You got to be quick. This is just an example of one of the burnouts we deal with.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
When you go to that house with that person, are you looking at it from a construction standpoint? Or are you willing to look at it from, if you invest in this, and this is my cost, then like you would be like, this is a deal I would make.
Yeah.
Is that the advice you're given?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit different. Even when I'm doing deals with, Tim or whatever, I'm probably testify to this. I look at every deal like it's mine. Because if I help you make the best decision you can, and the best, hey, I wouldn't spend the money here, even though we're doing the work, I'm not looking for every dime out of you at this house. If I can save you $5 grand worth of construction costs of this house, then most likely I made it starting for life, and then we're also gonna do more houses for you. So in the long run, we're both gonna benefit.
Did you understand that's not typical, right?
No, that's not it.
I mean, the typical is people just want to make their money.
Yeah, most contractors will get in there, try to jack the prices up as high as they can, or what they do is they'll give you a low price to get in there.
Change
Then
it.
all of a sudden they'll jack all the prices. And I just don't do that because I have to sleep at night, and
I'm the same way, but I lose a lot of work that way.
I lose a lot of money out of that, because it's like, Tim with I know we've got all kinds of things like that. Right now, we're doing, some of our business has switched to cost plus because of if it's the size of the house or if it's the complexity of the house. Like we're doing a 4,900 square foot bargain medium, 2-story bargain medium with Decatur, and it had a 2,000 square foot shop. But because the steel that's involved in that, and the wood and everything else we're doing in that, we're doing a cost plus on that position that we could have did it and actually been beneficial for both of us. This way I can help him save on the costs and I make sure I'm covered, not like cost plus.
So when you do a cost plus, a lot of the questions I always get is, well, how do we know you're not just sitting on the job, soaking up hours and right? And I never know how to explain.
The best thing for that is, if I'm going to talk to you, then say you have like a burnout like this, and this is, I don't want to say it's impossible. It's hard to come up with estimations on stuff like this because you don't know what the city's going to do. And the city could change something and have a $10,000 swing, but what I tell people is when I'm explaining to them the complexity of the job, and this is why I think we have to do a cost plus, it's going to save you money because if I'm going to do my normal estimate, then I'm going to be at 20-25% markup. If we do this and say we do a cost plus 15, then you're saving 10% on the markup because I have less risk in that. The less risk I'm involved, the less money I'm involved with. Because that way it's kind of both good for both people. And I explained to him too, I said, listen, if I'm not the person that you want to sit down and do business with, don't hire me. I'd rather not have the money. I'd rather not, if you don't trust me 100% to treat this like my job, then don't hire me. Because I just don't do that. I take every single house like it's my own.
Like, you sold me on, I lay my head on the pillow every night, right? And that's my same thought. I have to sleep. I have to live with myself.
And when I die, the good Lord's going to be there. It's not anybody with me, no friends or anybody else, so I got to be careful about what to do. But so on things like this, sometimes it's a different cup of tea. For new investors, don't do a burnout. You can make a lot of money on burnouts and it's kind of enticing, but if you come across a burnout and you come across something that's way out of your scope, there's a investor I'm helping out that I think he's done 2 houses. I helped him out with a couple things on a second house. He was a referral from the Richard. He bought a house in Richland Hills, and it's an old 60s, I believe, and the foundation, slab foundation, was all cracked and unlevel, and it looked terrible. They didn't know what to do. We talked to a concrete guy that came out and went over stuff with the block and fixed it for them. Well, they broke out windows, stuck their concrete pump lines in there, and pumped 4 inches of concrete over the whole entire slab, including around all the walls and everything. I've never seen anything like that. And everything was encapsulated. You can't do it. And then so the city came was driving by and saw the windows were broke out. Of course, they're going to stop and they're going to take a look at that. The house isn't secured, so then the code enforcement wrote for that. The grass was tall, so they wrote for that. They stopped. They put stop work permit on there, and then he got scared. He didn't know what to do. It sat there for 2 or 3 months, I think, before he called me. And then he called me and said, "Hey, I got a letter from the city that I'm pulling the house," and they had 140,000 and 50,000 into it. It's a $20,000 lot. So if they bulldoze that, you got a $20,000 lot plus the cost of bulldoze. And I told them we went there, we went over all of it, told them to get those concrete guys back out there, chip out a chunk so you can look at it and take a picture. And so we did that. I met with the city, I met with the city, mayor, the code enforcement, and the city inspector, and then kind of did powwow what we have to do to fix that. Then I wrote up my whole report. It took probably 18 hours, 20 hours to come up with a report on the current situation of the house, what we can do to fix it, and then the estimate to fix it and the timeline. Gave all that to the city, and the city meeting, and everything else, told them what they're going to do. They said, okay, we're going to bulldoze it, we're going to maybe days to try to figure it out. So then we got all that stuff figured out, and so he's going forward.
You know, it said that if you're a beginner, you shouldn't do a burnout. But if they got you,
Well, yeah. Make sure experience is on your side.
yeah, I guess
You know, and I guess that's my biggest thing is
Yeah.
if you're gonna do a burnout and then you're gonna go look for a contractor, and I'm not saying everybody's having this. I mean, there's just no way we can do everything, but if they go look for a contractor and the contractor says, oh yeah, they're gonna go in here and just gonna throw some paint on the cabinets and everything.
I mean,
It's never gonna work. Once you do that, and I've gone into houses where contractors have done this, and you have to rip half the stuff out because they'll try to just encapsulate everything. It doesn't work. You heat that house heats up during the summer, that attic is gonna smell like smoke, because the worst thing in fires is a smoke damage, not fire damage. You know, and it's just the headache.
So is that what your concern is, the smoke damage versus the structural damage?
Smoke damage is so much more work than so much more work to take care of rather than the fire damage. And then you also have the water damage. So burnout is threefold. And if your contractor's not sure on how to take care of it, because what happens in the fire, it heats all the materials up, your drywall up. Your drywall, there's none in that picture, but your drywall can be singed or smoke damage. And a lot of people say, okay, I can just put Kills Original, seal that stuff up and paint it. But during a fire, there's such immense heat in there, all the pores of the sheetrock and the wood open up, and that smoke gets in the pores. And then when they come in and put it out, the pores close up. As soon as that heats up again during the summer, it opens up, that smell comes right out.
So you can't assume on a burnout, the first thing is taking not only the burn material, but the drywall out. Because I assume
On some, this one here, we only took about half the drywall.
because on a 5/8 piece of drywall, you have about a 1 hour rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming when fire hits that rating's gone, right?
The rating's gone. If the paper's burned, if it becomes brittle, if there's water damage, there's so many variables in that. And what I do in this is I just walk around with my pocket knife and I know where to hit, where to touch. It's kind of like, painting a dude. It's not his knowledge, it's knowing where to hit the hand. So you walk around, I walk around homeowner and tell me, poke with my knife and say, okay, this is where the brittle stops. So from here this way, you got to tear off all the sheet. Of course, all the insulation's got to go. You have to spray and encapsulate all of the attic. Replace anything that's charred more than 1/8 of an inch is code, but I replace anything that's charred. So if it's charred, it's going to smell bad.
So the insulation on the attic, even if it doesn't look damaged, you're saying it retains.
They would change that smell.
Guy at a house up there, you have to suck out all the insulation and you gotta coat the whole underside deck in and all the trusses up there.
Oil base or lacquer base.
Right, and then you gotta put the kills, you gotta get up in your attic and spray the whole attic. If you don't, that smell gets back in your house and
And try selling a house that, you know, I walked into a lady said, I don't know why I can't sell this house. How long has it been on, this is 5, 6 years. I said, how long has it been on the market? 12.5 months. And so I walked in there, beautiful rebound. Walking through the house, it's surprising. And then as soon as you start opening cupboards, you can start smelling the smoke because it didn't get sealed from the top. So you're getting that heat from the attic coming through.
Sounds like you need to sell it during the winter time.
I know what you're at.
I'm just kidding.
But this is how the kitchen was, and this is what it was. So, I mean, it was quite a difference.
So when you walk a house with somebody, because I think we would be more interested in like something that we completely is way cheap. Because I know a burned house would probably be way cheaper, right, on the wholesale market. And so I don't know that it scares me if you're armed with someone like your knowledge.
If you have the right, you know, that's why I can't, I'm not just trying to blow you smoke, you know, around, but this group, I believe, has the most widest knowledge of any of the groups, and the most common, because we're just one big family. But if you have the knowledge with you, don't be afraid of it. And even if you come across a house that's just crazy nuts, I'd say, you know, call Tim and say, hey, you know, we got this lead, but what do we do? I believe every lead is purchasable and sellable. It just depends how you're going to do it. If you come across a house that you're going to wholesale, and you're sitting there talking to the owners, and it's worth, say, 240, and they want 235, you know, that's still a doable lead, you know, but it's going to be more of a owner finance deal or something, set to or something like that. Call Jim, hey, I got this lead. I have investors who just walk away. If they can't buy it for 60%, they're not. And to me, that's just crazy. But yeah,
Look at wholesaling as a way to help the individual out of whatever they're in.
that's the biggest. I think wholesale.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, people who are more customer service oriented tend to be the best wholesalers because they're there to just as a medium in between the wholesale, the owner who is going through some kind of catastrophic that big word, event in their life, and then the millions of people who are ready just to working to get that house for the lowest price possible. You know, I try to get the lowest price I can, but still, I don't want that person to pay it because I'm not going to go through life knowing I actually, you know, $20,000 worth of house. But so yeah, if you don't run away from deals like this. They're cheap. You can pick them up for 45, 50 grand still. But the amount of it, I think we put. I think this one was close to 100,000. Because we had to replace several trusses, had to rewire the whole entire house, and things like that. There's just a lot of stuff that's tubeless. And this is that same house on the inside. They was just so sad. We had to go through. They walked away from it. Of course, they took their insurance check, so the house walked away from it. But it was so sad going through that house. It was just throwing out that stuff where we had years of memories of it in there, you know, photo albums and stuff like that. But, you know, it feels like that. But then of course it was down. So as far as budgeting, you've got to know what you're looking at, and you've got to also know your flavor of doing things. I've got some landlord, and that's where I'm kind of blessed, where I get to do different deals with many different investors. So I can look at it and say, you know, what are you planning on doing with the property? I'm going to make a rent. Okay, great. We can make this rental rate instead of retail rate. There's so many different ways you do about it. Some of these investors I know that do the owner finance, they do nothing. They go in there, we clean it out, and we take all the trash out, we clean all the fixtures and just make it, you know, presentable. They put a sign in there and sell it as is. I don't understand that process, but I mean it works. You know, so just know what you're looking at, and it doesn't matter if you're wholesaling or you're buying those. You know, it's all kind of the same information. Know what you're looking at, and know what your exit strategy is. You know, it's good to have 2 or 3 exit strategies, especially right now. You know, hey, I'm going to try to sell this. If I can't sell this, and I can just refinance it with roof and maybe a rental or Airbnb or, you know, whichever way you guys.
make it a habit of having 2 or 3 different exit strategies on every house. Because life doesn't always go as planned.
There's a good friend of mine that we became good friends over the years. He does a lot of owner finance properties and he does food house. And he's been messed over by a couple of contractors. He bought a house up in Plano. And he hired a contractor because I told him it's just too far for that. So he didn't put that time. That guy got halfway into it, took money from him. One of his workers cut off his toe, and I mean, just the whole thing's just tragic. And we went in there and had to fix that up for him. And then he had another owner finance house down at Seawood that he sold to the people. They were in there for almost a year, and then somebody came to him and told him, we just can't keep doing it. We're going to give the house back and whatever. So he went in there and gave him, I think that was half of his down payment back. So that way they could go find another house and try to help the guy out and stuff. Then he went to do a walkthrough with the guy at the end of the keys, and the guy had a gumption to do a walkthrough with my buddy and I. We opened the door, we walked in. There was no kitchen. I mean, everything was gone. The backsplash was gone, the cabinets were gone, everything was gone out of the kitchen. And the guy just was, oh, I don't know what happened. The door was open. So it's just, what did he do soon? And so then he went and got we need to get good insurance sponsor. So he talked to the insurance company that insures property. It covers vandalism, not theft. So it covered the door, because the door was kicked in, whether by him or his buddies or whatever. But it covered nothing of the cabinet issues. So I mean that was kind of sad. But if you're not sure what to do, JV with somebody or just build that team like the unforeseen budget. These are some great ones. Plumbing leaks. You made the top of the list. You're doing that big house in Weatherford, and I don't know what happened there because they did the foundation. You had the foundation done, and then that foundation company did the water test or something, but you didn't get it back until after we started or something. We were halfway through the remodel, I think, and then found out that there was a water leak there, or there was a sewer leak, sewer line break, and it happened to be right underneath all of the flooring that he was keeping. So the whole downstairs, we had covered and stuff, was all the tile, wood look tile. And so then we had to come up with, of course, the plumbers, when you ever have a slab leak, 15 grand immediately. I mean, I don't know why they do that, but they, and I think it was going to be around 15 grand for them to do something, 12 grand or something like that.
Yeah, and they wanted us to take the set of kitchen cabinets out on that corner wall.
Yeah, and that didn't include putting them back, repainting them, anything.
That was just demo.
So then we came up
for
with
them to get in and fix the pipe.
we came up with a plan that we were able to cut the tile, remove the tile of the entryway, and then get to it from that side. And then, and I've got a couple different tricks that I do to keep it possible. And then dug down in there and replaced the pipe, refilled it, and then we bought different tile, complementary tile, and then retiled the entryway. So that way it looked like this. I hate doing stuff that looks like I know the plumber, he needs to say but then we did that. I think that one of this cost, I think around 7,000.
Yeah,
I think for the whole thing,
something like that.
Somewhere around there. So almost half price. But there's so many different ways of doing it.
We put travertine tile in that entry, and what a difference when you walk in that house, you see that tile there.
Yeah, that was impressive. It's the big steel double doors, and then I mean, it was impressive. The big entry, 2-story entry. Roof, Lenny can attest to the roof like he was talking about earlier. You buy a roof, you look up. If you don't do roofing and you don't know roofing, well, it's good to me, but then, when he gets up there, no, you got granule loss, all the edges of the shingles are all, worn down. You've got cracking shingles, so that can be a huge unforeseen budget. But,
so on this same house, Lenny did the roof. And I didn't account for a roof. If you've heard the saying, if their lips are moving, they're lying. Seller said, yeah, it was just done 5-10 years ago. And this house was monstrous, 2-story all the way across. So I didn't get up there and look. So even experienced people just kind of, you know,
I've been doing this for 35 years. I still.
yeah, so I miss things occasionally, but fortunately, I bought it at a good price, because I still had to have the roof done.
But not only that, if you're looking at buying the house, say you find like a wholesale, you talk to the people, whatever they tell you, double that time frame. But people come and ask me, hey, or I'll tell them, hey, I just saw you last month. You know, it's been 3 months, dude. And that's like, right. I mean, people in time frames just like, I don't think. So if they say, oh yeah, I did a roof, around about 5 years, probably can't use it. So, but if you're looking at a house and you're dealing with that homeowner, and then either during your inspection period, you have Lenny out and takes a look at the roof, he doesn't know how the roof's not hail damage, it's not gonna pass the insurance inspection. You can talk to that homeowner and tell them, hey, the roof's not done. One way we can tackle this where it doesn't cost you, it doesn't cost me. Talk to your insurance company, have it done with you first. Have that insurance claim, you give me the check, and I give the check to you. So there's so many different ways you can get that where it doesn't cost you or the owner.
Statistically, this is a real statistic, 50% of all the houses you buy can need a new roof. 50%, because you're buying houses in distress, they don't get up there. I'd say 50% of the houses you buy have to have a new roof.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You're buying from people that need to sell and are distressed for whatever reason. So the house probably is not been taken care of.
And when you walk up, I mean, it's not the paint's peeling from the fascia, and bricks are falling off and that kind of stuff. Foundation's the other one. Unless I can teach people tricks to look at the foundation, know what and how many piers that foundation needs. Get in good with foundation company that you like, and that it's not going to sit there and say. And there's several different ways to do it. These investors go, oh yeah, I got this investor friendly guy. You'll do it for $450 a pier, but that doesn't come with a map. The guy just comes up with piers wherever he wants to put piers, and then you go to sell the property. You don't have an engineer's report. So there's so many different ways. People try to falsely save money, and it doesn't work. You go with now. I'm not saying go to old Shands and pay $600 a pier. But there's different ways you can go about the foundation. But even the foundation, if you look at it and you go, yeah, I think about $4,000 for the foundation. It turns out to be $8,000. It's another inflation cost. So a lot of these unforeseen costs, you can kind of get away with and get rid of them.
I'm working on getting us a foundation company in here as a sponsor. And from talking to them, it sounds like all their costs have gone up too, just like everything else. The peers, the employee salaries and stuff. So
I was going to ask about foundation because I've got a foundation that I use, but because I've done so many houses with foundations, then I use one of the less expensive peer companies, still has a warranty and everything else. I have an independent engineer, but I send an engineer over there. He does it. He comes up with a plan. This is how many peers you need. This guy comes in and does a pier. And sometimes I'll wrap that in with my estimate for the house also. But there's so many different.
What about foundation versus just raising a slab, drilling holes
and the foam?
Well, it's foam that turns into concrete. It's an
an
epoxy.
Yeah, it's epoxy foam that they spray underneath the
So they drill holes and then they just level it.
So this is a job we did, and I put this on there because of that. The house portion, this is the back, of course, the roof came all the way over the back portion, continued on the house portion. But the apron for the pool was all settled down about 1.5 inches or so. So there's all these areas like this that it was all tricky. So we had a guy come out and do that, and he came out and they're drilling the holes to inject that in there and pump it up. The thing about that is the concrete settled for a reason. Now I also do spray foam, so I don't do this spray foam, but I do the spray foam in the walls at close down. But the dirt settled or washed away, or we don't know unless you take all the concrete off to make that slab settle. So if people think they're just going to come in and inject foam in it, it's going to put a pile of foam that spreads out to lift the concrete. You can lift the concrete right away. You can do that sometimes with a pry bar. But it doesn't going to cause any damage. Is it going to stay that way? There's a lot of variables to that. Is it just going to raise it up and over the next couple of weeks, push that dirt back down? The problems with dirt washing out. On this one, when they jack this up, everything looks great. you know, everything was level, and okay, great, you know, here's your check, you guys are awesome. I think it was about 2 weeks later, I started noticing cracks in the concrete slab, because it had messed up, it had grabbed the concrete slab and lifted that up with it, and the house slab started settling because there's no foam, and then it started cracking. So we had issues there we had to take care of. And then it was about a month and a half later, all of this started settling, not all of it, but a portion of it started settling back down, because the problem was there was the sprinkler line, I think that they ran underneath there, that had a pinhole in it, and it was washing the stuff out. So there's a lot of variables to that. So sometimes it's, you know, it's easier to jack that up. I'm against the investors, and I won't work with them, that want to just put a Band-Aid on it and walk away and somebody else's problem. You know, they're gonna jack it up and try to put it and sell it, or whatever happens. I can do that. Because most of the time, my name gets involved somehow during closing, or they'll ask who the contractor was, you know, was there warranties, stuff like that. My name gets in there, the new buyers call me, and in fact, it was that house. While we're doing the rehab of it, you know, you're not using showers and stuff like that in there. So everything flowed just right. After they sold the house, about 2 months, the realtor, I knew the realtor that was the seller, the buyer's agent. She called me and asked me if I'd come meet with her and the buyer. I went and met with them, and none of the drains were leaking. So then I helped them try to come up with that system to fix that. The line from the house to the street, there was 2 big trees there, and they're just full of roots. We pulled it out, and it was a bundle of roots this big, just pulled out there. So things were draining when we were using them, but then once you put that load on it, you know, it wasn't. Right.
So back to your liability in commercial, if I build a project, I'm liable for up to 10 years. We carry a very certain insurance.
A new construction.
New or remodel, if something happens within 10 years, they can literally come back and loop us back in.
So residential is a little different. Most residential warranties are a year. Even when you're building a new house, there'll be manufacturer's warranties on the stock on the items. And then normally the contractor has a year warranty on all related issues or installation issues.
No, that's the same with those.
Well,
But I'm saying if something happens to somebody on a commercial side and they find something in the construction, up to 10 years.
absolutely. So if you get all these idiots, investors who think they can come in, I want to tear that wall out. They tear that wall out themselves. They don't have a contractor or somebody who knows what they're doing, structurally look at it. And if that house falls down 15, 20 years later, and they come in and find out, hey, you took a wall out, you know, they can come back on that, on the last, the way the city does it, so I'm assuming this is judicial. The last person to touch the house is liable. So if you have a house, if you both send it to me, the people did a remodel on it, and that was not permitted. Let's say they did an addition, and it wasn't permitted. You were the pass-through, so they sold it to you, you sold it to me. You're liable. You could be liable as a wholesaler. I don't know quite the legalities of that, but it comes to me because when I touched the house and I remodeled it and I turned around and sold it, there's nothing to prove I did or did not do that addition. So if the addition falls down and kills somebody, I could be liable. So there are some things like that that you've got to be just aware of. And right now, everybody's saying this is happening. You know, the way these attorneys are. So that's could be a possibility. Liability, they're going to go anywhere where they can get them. Personally, I split my stuff like in LLCs, so it makes it a little bit tougher for them because if they look up, we got a friend of mine that has 68 rentals, and he puts them all in his personal name. Keep talking to him about that. He said he hired the best attorney before when he was in Chicago.
Mistake.
And that guy said that he can he can build a crash-proof entity. You can put all your stuff in there, and then he can turn around next month and crack that entity and get attached to all the money. So he said, but they're going to if the attorney, because most of the people that buy these houses, or I mean, like owner financing, it depends upon the people you're dealing with. A lot of them don't have a lot of money. So if something happens, the attorney can say, hey, I can get you $2 million. Then okay, they're gonna search for the homeowner. And then they're gonna do a background check on the homeowner, to see how much money they have, what they have in their accounts, how many properties they own. If they pull up your name, all of a sudden you have 12 properties in your name, okay, this guy's got some cash. And then they're going to try to go after and see if they can get a good judge to give it to them. But, so we split our stuff. I don't hold properties, so I don't really have to worry about that, but I keep stuff, kind of shifted around. You can do trust, you can do all kinds of different things to shield yourself. You can put, if you're doing stuff like that, like talking commercial stuff or even residential, and you're afraid that somebody may do that at some point, you can put all your personal stuff in a trust, and then like land trust and stuff, to protect your own personal doings. And that way they can't really attach that because they can't trace that to your name. And so I rent the house in the trust. So, some things I'll bite you. Your personal house needs to be in your name, else you can't get your over 65 exemption, you can't get your homestead, but everything else you put in trust. And if that's another program.
No, conversation.
No, so you should be using land trust to buy properties in, so that it takes your name off public records and gives you a level of anonymity on public records. But you can do your personal home in a trust, and then you have to go back down to the county and with the trust documents and get that exemption put back on. Yes,
Really, I was not aware of that.
I've done it. Yes.
Because I messed up, I put, our personal home was a foreclosure when we bought the dirt cheap. And then we, fixed it up, so we got some equity in it. I put it in my company's, my LLC's company, so that way the equity would help boost the solidity, make the business more solid. By doing that, the county was just jacking my rates. I said, hey, wait a minute, you can't bump this up more than 10% a year, something like that. I said, oh yeah, we can, because that's only a homestead properties. This is owned by a company, so that way they can bump it. I think they went 35% value. It's just stages, always like that. So we moved that back over to the person, really. But they're doing that to all these people that have all these other properties and stuff. It's kind of a shame, but so that's the foundation. The water heaters. Water heaters are always an issue. But it used to be a cheap issue. For $300-400, you would throw in a new water heater. Now it's supposed to be like $900. Everything's going up. Drainage issue sitting on here. The guy went and bought that house, and I walked the property with him. And I asked him about the walkway as they're going up, because nothing was growing there. And I asked him, what's going on with this? And he said, oh, they just said nothing will grow there because of trees. Okay. So then we redid the whole entire house, and he put it on the market. That weekend, we had a storm come through and rain. Nothing grows there because it floods. And that whole thing flooded, and it flooded in the front door. And then we had to replace some of the flooring, some of the sheetrock we had to cut out and get all that stuff done. He was an idiot. He didn't carry insurance on his property, so he had to pay for that cash, which he wanted to provide our money for free because it flooded. And I don't work that. But then what we had to do is then we came in and we put this drainage system in to divert all that water around there, and we didn't have a problem. But that was an unforeseen thing. Just because he didn't answer, enough questions, and he said, "Well, I asked the homeowner, it's because of trees." You should, but he didn't know enough to dig a little bit.
Drainage is something you need to be looking for when you're looking at the house.
This one here, this whole property, it wasn't, like a hill like this, but it was just gentle slope back down to the house. So this is in Arlington, and the whole front now just straight back to the rock there. But and another one when people pull out, this is in a bathroom, but they have these little soffits above the showers. In the kitchens, people want to take those soffits down. Most of the time, there's nothing structural with that. But what they don't count on is the builders get lazy. Plumbers will run their stuff right through there, electrical lines right through there. And unless you're handy, you know what you're doing with that, you know how to do your junction boxes, move the plumbing, stuff like that. That can get kind of, because if a plumber has to come out and move one line, it's not going to be for $80 or $100. He's going to do it for $500 or $600 because it's going to blow his whole day. So there's a lot of little things like that. Just to be aware of.
You're taking the fur downs out, right?
Taking fur downs out, yeah.
So what
it's
you're saying,
typical for them when you have a fur down like this in your kitchen, it's difficult for the electrician to run it through that, put all the wires through that. And if you have a, 10, 12 wires running through there, then it's just creates.
So you're saying people remove those to put bigger cabinets or open it up?
Taller cabinets, open it up, things like that. They
Okay.
want to knock down the wall. If they knock down a wall, you've got electrical in it. And you never know if you've got a gas line, water lines, so just be aware that those might be. And then pools and pools equipment. Back in each of lunch, there's a house we did a few months ago in Bedford. It's a liner pool. It was real popular. They went around for, was 8, 10 years ago, something like that, maybe longer. A company was going around selling, they brought all these, salespeople in and they sold a ton of these liner pools. So they just kind of almost like stack blocks and then do a spray coat of gunite on there and they just put a liner in there. And if that liner gets torn, now that company's not around anymore, so you have to have somebody else do that liner. It's about $6,000 to put a liner. So because that has to be custom made for that pool. And then it was cheaper for him to come and have somebody knock it over and fill it in, which is too bad if you lose the pool. And then Tim can tell you about the pool equipment.
Oh, yeah.
You need anybody to do pool equipment? I call him Tim.
It's expensive.
But it's just, you look at it, it worked on that house in Weatherford. Yeah, everything worked, but it was old, it wasn't pumping as powerful as it should. And then it's just, when you go to sell a house, if you're selling a $250,000 house with a pool, it doesn't really matter. When you sell a $650,000 house, that pool equipment never was nice.
Yeah.
Because it looks dirty at all, they're, it looks old to me. So, but pool equipment, and if you call somebody, if you're not the type of person to figure out yourself or work a way to get it replaced, if you call a pool company, if you call an electrician that works on pools, the price is 3 times. Because they don't normally only work during the winter or during the summer, they don't work during the winter. So they gotta make all the money during the summer. So, you can wrap up 6, 8 grand in the pool.
Just the pool.
Just the pool.
Not to mention cleaning it.
Just
take
loans, $2,200.
Yeah, that, I replaced the filter and the pump. Did not have to change the sweeper motor. Those parts and all the plumbing pieces and the valves and stuff was over $3,000.
But I got you.
Yeah. And Paul put me up with wholesale prices. But yeah, it can be expensive. And that was me doing it. I decided I was gonna do it. And it worked out pretty good, but
It can be, all those hidden things. But this is why you ought to write this stuff down on an estimate. So that we can check that box. Doesn't have a pool, don't worry about it.
So this slide itself on an unforeseen budget is your experience, and these are the items that you would say 100%. You have to look at these because these come up more than either.
This happens almost on every single job. If somebody wants to take a photo. 90% of them will have wires or something. Sometimes it doesn't cost, very much. If you know how to do electrical yourself, there's a fine line there that you got to dance. I'm a proponent of getting permits when it's needed to get permits. Because I think permits, they cover the contractor and they also cover the investor, and it's good for the homeowner because the stuff's getting done right and you get a piece of paper that says, hey, I did this to the city's standards. So then it kind of covers CYA type of thing.
So like
But you have something like this, if you're just moving 3, 4 wires, throw up a couple junction box and do it.
Yeah. Because it's Romex, right?
Yeah, because most of the time it's.
So you have a box in the wall and then a box in the ceiling and connect the two.
Yeah.
And you're out.
Yeah, you just have to have the 2 junction boxes. You can't bury any wires. Some people will wire net them and bury them and you just can't do it. Because it's not safe. But that happens. But you gotta have to know when to walk that line in the equipment. If you're doing something that if you don't know electrical, hire a licensed electrician, and most of them will come move that stuff for you, not pull a permit. If they're saying, I gotta come and pull a permit, and you'll have some of these guys that come in there, I can move those wires for you, but then I gotta pull a permit. The city's gonna make it update the whole entire house to current standards. That means you have to upgrade your panel box. Now you're looking at $4,000, bill. So
let's talk about permit for a minute. At what point is it required? Because a lot of stuff on our end, if it's on facial, right? If it's just paint, carpet, ceiling tile, you don't have to, even changing out lights, probably no.
Yeah.
At what point?
So according to the law, if you change all lights or fixtures, technically, if it's a can light, it's not a surface mount light. So technically, you're supposed to get a permit to replace that light because it's not a surface. If you're changing outlets, switches, those are considered fixtures and you can change those without permits. If you open a wall and expose that cavity, you have to bring that whole cavity up to current code. So if it's not insulated, a lot of these older homes don't have insulation, you have to insulate that one, say there's some mold there that you get rid of, cut it out and you get rid of it. Technically, you have to insulate that one bay, even though none of the rest of it has insulation. You have to keep insulation in, and you have to bring it to current code.
So the inspector's gonna wanna see that you put insulation.
And they're gonna want insulation in there. A lot of these cities are getting away from doing inspections themselves. They come and still do the inspections, but they're going, with insulation, you gotta hire a third party insulation inspector. Because there's so much government interference in everything we do, and you aware of that for commercial, that everybody's washing their hands. The cities are washing their hands. We don't have to do it. You deal with somebody else. We did a rehab it was $140,000 rehab in Grapevine. And the investors bought it on, I think, scripture styles. So then we went in there and it took me 2.5 months just to get the permits from the city to start the job. And we had to bring everything up to current code, of course, and all the water because we have to have it. But all of that stuff, it's just a nightmare because the city doesn't want to do anything anymore. You know, they're hiring these, they want to use the term nowadays, they don't know anything. They're hiring these kids, these 10-year-old kids, and for inspectors, and you're like, you don't even know what you're looking at. You know, when I can dance circles around the inspectors, that's pretty bad. And then I think we're going to get to it in the next slide. The track inspectors, when people buy and sell houses, those are the
So just one more note on the drainage issues. One of my experiences early on was bought a house that I could tell had been flooded in the back porch. A couple of different times I'm just looking at it, I could tell what the problem was. The backyard sloped to the house and the sides sloped, and they just never did anything about it. So I started asking, well, have you filed an insurance claim? Oh yeah. Yeah, I've had 2 insurance claims. Well, they never spent the money in fixing the house. So they spent the money, but not on fixing the problem. So, and by the way, the roof didn't have gutters. So you got the roof dumping all the water, the hills dumping all the water, and it just flooded that back porch and into the house. And when I went to start inquiring about insurance, the insurance company told me that there'd been previous claims and I couldn't get insurance with them. And they have Texas has a special insurance company. I can't remember the name of it now. It's been so long ago, but you can ask your insurance agent about it. That you have to get insurance from them until you can go like 10 years or 5 years or something like that without a claim. Then you can go back to a regular insurance company. So I can't remember what it's called.
I think they're part of the Texas Insurance Exchange or something. Yeah, like a spin-off.
But you need to ask questions. If it looks like it's been flooded, you need to ask if they've ever filed an insurance claim and then didn't spend the money on fixing the problem.
We do a lot of water restorations and things like that. And it used to be where cities and states were done because they still did everything by paper. But now, since they do everything by computer, and Lenny can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you buy a house and you look up and Lenny comes over, oh yeah, I have a shell damage, you need to replace this roof. You talk to the homeowner, and the homeowner so hey, the insurance company comes out and they say, no, we paid this homeowner like 4 years ago, and there was no roof. I mean, they didn't spend that money on the roof. The insurance company come back and say, no, we're not paying this because you're going to be paid on it. I mean, you're stuck having to pay for a roof. So just be aware of that too.
I always thought the insurance companies pay directly to the roofer.
No, I think
I've never gotten a check from an insurance company.
I wouldn't suggest anybody ever do that because the contract is between the insurance company and the homeowner. I know some contractors, I know a few roofers that will manipulate their way into having signed we're in a committee.
They do a joint check.
Power of attorney.
Yeah, power of
They
attorney.
have a power of attorney to talk to the insurance company on your behalf. They go talk to the insurance company. They, drive the price up as much as they possibly can. That check comes straight to the roofer. This happened on a house I did some repairs at up in Wiley. They have, years ago, but they had grapefruit size hail hit that, and I went through the roof, through the sheetrock, and it beat up their furniture and stuff. But they were doing it. These fly-by-night roofers come through here and just get people to sign whatever they want because they're in distress because of profit. And then those checks, even the flood damage ones we took care of a lot of flood damage properties during that. We got here for that 2-3 years ago. We had that freeze. Crazy.
Yeah, we're Area 21.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we installed, so I'm not licensed plumbers, electricians, everybody at one point. We installed probably 35 tankless water heaters over the last few years. When that hit, those are great because they'll keep themselves warm, in case of cold temperatures. But then when there's no power, the electronics don't work. Those flooded, our church got flooded. So we're dealing with a lot of insurance stuff. And I will not take money from the insurance company because you have no recourse with the homeowner then. Because if the insurance company gives you, say, that was a $20,000 claim, they give you, and it's a $3,000 deductible, they give you a $17,000 check. When if there's $20,000 worth of work, you need to get that $3,000 deductible. You go back to homeowner, the heck, you owe me $3,000. No, I don't. That's between you and the insurance company. So, they're just, and then there's just too many variables fighting with the insurance company. Sometimes I'll go to bat for homeowners with the insurance company, but I do it through the homeowner because that's where the contract lies and that's where the power lies because they have a contract with them.
I have USA.
USA, that is
They
great.
pay way more than
Yeah, USA is
They're
great.
Very good.
They're the best insurance company I've worked with.
Very
USA
nice. My
by far
grandson,
is the best insurance company.
my nephew, went his tour in Iraq, he was the Air Force. Did all that, a young family, I think they got 2 young kids. This was the first house they bought. They just got out of Iraq, I think, moved down here, went to work for Lockheed, and got a house up on 287 in the contract. He had 3 breaks in his water lines, flooded his whole entire house. And he bought his house in order to afford the house payment. The moron that did all his stuff, chopped him into a 5% deductible. Well, it was a $320,000 house. He had $15,000 deductible and $30,000 for that. And so there's no way they can even. They call me fine, and what do we do? The house is ruined. We just get it back to the house. So we went in there and we pulled some favors and. We got the cabinet guys to deal with the cost and the business of the family, and we were able to do it for them 17,000. So there's insurance companies, but USA is one of the best.
Absolutely. But there are insurance companies now going to, the roof's over 10 years old, they won't insure it. That's, some insurance companies are going to that right now.
But they're all tied in. I think that's where I was going earlier. They're all tied in. So if you call farmers, and farmers comes and looks at it and it's under State Farm, the farmers can look it up and know that roof was bought 8 years ago. And did it get repaired or not? So always takes pictures.
Before the computer age, you used to can just change insurance companies after you got your check and you claim again on the new insurance company because they kept their check from the hail damage, change the insurance company, then they try to get another check. But the whole thing is on hail damage, you only can go back 2 years. I got a guy, he just changed insurance companies a month ago, and he's trying to claim hail. I said, we haven't had a hailstorm in this month. I said, you can't get insurance. And got the, whatever happens, got to happen during your policy period. If it's pre-existing, they're going to say, oh, you're claiming a year later that you got hail damage. Well, we haven't had no hail this year. That happened 2 years ago.
There's a lot of insurance companies are
So-
smart.
Yeah.
So on insurance, we just had an experience in my Euless house. I bought this house and it moved kind of quick and the deal was I was planning on doing a roof on it and I had accounted for that. But the seller said, if I can get you an insurance claim, how's that working in the price to me? I said, well, I'll pay you if you can get the insurance claim for a new roof. So he called the insurance company and Lenny met him out there and that roof was bad.
Yeah.
And, but this all happened so quick in the closing. None of the insurance stuff was until after he sold the house to me. We were already closed. I already owned it before they even started the insurance claim and still got it done. The insurance company, met them and they agreed to it. And we had the checks. We had a lost check for a little bit, but we finally got checks and got it all done. So the point there is be sure you ask. I mean, maybe, if you have to spend 10, 15 grand on a roof out of your pocket versus paying the seller $3,000, if he can get the roof done for you, I mean, that's a pretty good deal, right?
A lot of times you do that, you can go back to that homeowner and say, hey, you got hail damage. Like he did. You say, hey, I'll give you $3,000 if you go and turn it on me. It's nothing out of their pocket. If I can get your roofer over here that will pay your deductible. So they just made $3,000 out of getting a roof done. And he got a new roof out of it for his house to sell.
If it's good for everybody, I mean, it's
So Paul did that rehab. Lenny did the roof. That house went on the market. This is an even better story.
wait a minute. Both of your houses were done in the times where all the investors are saying, oh no, interest rates are skyrocketing, everything's gonna take longer to hold, it's gonna take forever to sell, and we're not in a 3-day market anymore. Prices are plummeting.
That's right. This house was sold in February this year. So, things weren't sounding real good, right? Went on the market Friday afternoon. Open house Saturday, 2 hours. 21 families in 2 hours. Well, all the realtors said, that's amazing. 21 families by Monday, had 51 showings total between Friday afternoon and Monday. We had to say best and highest offers by Monday night. We got 25,000 over asking. Over asking.
And did he buy us lunch? No.
And,
Just kidding.
and cash buyer.
Oh, yes.
Like that.
No appraisal.
Like
Just
that.
things like
Oh, sweet deal.
Did a home inspection, asked for 3 or 4 piddly little things.
I always see why they have a couple different exit strategies, but just don't fall in all these people.
And good rehab.
You have people that work at 7-Eleven who's gonna tell you what the real estate market's doing. And it's just, I know that there can be people who know what they're doing, but get your advice from somebody who knows what they're doing. Don't take a real estate advice or what the interest rate's doing to loans unless you're talking to Ruth Ann or Chan, somebody who's doing properties and selling, moving properties. Because then you'll know what's happening.
The other piece that all ties all this together is the details matter. The location matters. If you go do a magnificent rehab in the biggest drug infected neighborhoods, you're not going to sell that house or not very fast. And you probably won't get your money back.
That's another thing,
But
but build to the neighborhood.
If it's
You
the
don't
right,
go to Taj Mahal and stop six.
if it's the right neighborhood and you do the rehab properly, then you may still get over asking price.
What was the location of this house?
Euless.
Oh, yeah.
It was-
I was an house neighbor.
it was-
That's a real nice
because of the
neighbor.
airport.
No yard.
Bedford, those are hot, but it's hard to get a house.
No yard. But the other big thing this house had and the others didn't is they had this little mini, they called it a pool, but it was like an oversized jacuzzi.
Right.
But, and
Swim
it
from one
needed,
side to the other, you get float and touch both sides.
it actually needed refinishing. But was heated, propane heater. It had double the filtration system, had the same size filters, 2 of them, as what I put in this Weatherford house. that had a monstrous pool. And, but, you know, all those things matter, you know, and
When you're doing it, so look to the neighborhood
Details.
they're in, and look at what your competition is in that neighborhood. If the competition in that neighborhood, do it a little bit nicer in the best house.
Yep.
And always put in, my philosophy, always put in one wow factor. I don't care if it's for the kids or the wife, but you always focus on the kids and the wife. If you put in, you know, just a realistic stuff, that you put in an outlet in a kitchen where somebody would set their phones at the end of the day or something like that, or work on their laptop. You just put a stupid little $25 USB connector in there, people just go.
sellers won't do that. So if
Yeah,
you're
most of
doing
them
it,
do.
it's a little added touch.
You know, we'll put some in the kids' bedrooms, USB ports in the kids' bedrooms. And then, you know, we've heard from, when we go back in buyer's inspection or the list and stuff, and people will be in there. Yeah, they do what the kids talking about, you know, instead of the public lot, was happy to know. And it's just great.
That's a smart idea.
Little things that do, it's just, but it's the little things that sell it. You know, people will put thousands and thousands of dollars in a house, and it's just, you know, to me, I don't like putting money into a house unless I know I'm gonna get that out.
We also do night light outlets. That's a nice little feature if you got a long hallway for the kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things you can do to spruce up the houses. But then on the buyer's inspection list, I know because, what's my name?
It's 11.
Well, it's buyer's inspection list, they're always done by inspectors. I'm on mic, so I don't say this. A lot of they're just like with every other business. There's good contractors and bad contractors, good realtors, bad realtors. A lot of the tracks or the track inspectors are HVAC guys, electricians, somebody who got hurt, and then they can't do their work anymore. So they go take a test, they become a track inspector. I can always tell, I get probably 5 or 6 calls a month if I come sit down with the homeowner and the realtor and explain this inspection report to them. Because the seller gets the inspection report, and some of them are on houses we did. And well, look at the house is falling apart. How you fixed it? If you saw this, how come you didn't say anything about it? Blah, blah, blah. They have to inspect the house, so some of it's not their fault. But you can look at the list, and if it's heavy on the electrician side, you know that guy used to be an electric contractor, or it's heavy on the plumbing side, or whatever it is. But a lot of that stuff, they don't have the box to check on whether that it's grandfathered into that house. So if you take a house from the 60s, that electrical system has been working just fine for the last 60 years. And then now all of a sudden they have to say it's not sufficient because it doesn't meet today's code. So I have to go explain that to the people buying the house, to the realtors. You know, I don't know why the realtors don't do this stuff. But it depends upon your personality, that can eat your life. I mean, if you're the type of person that's, oh my gosh, I got to say, I got to do it, I'll give them whatever they want. And you fix everything that they're, because of course the realtor is going to say, hey, just ask for everything, see what happens. And so you put that whole list. I've had people just give me the inspection report. I want you to fix it. Really? Had a investor that when he started off, the first inspection report that came back, we went through it and he paid me to fix every single thing on that list. And then the next house I did for him, he took that and put it in a checklist. So that way when we're done, he brought that out and he goes, okay, we're going to walk through and check all these items. He goes, I don't want anything on the inspection report. He went through and checked all that. He went and sold it. There was another list. So then he compiled those 2 lists. He did that for 3 houses. And then the third house we did, I did almost not $8,000 or $9,000 worth of extra on that house that he got back and got another list. So I told him, listen, you're losing money. You know, I'm all for giving somebody a good product. And my big deal is safety. You know, when you get these lists, if there's anything safety related, there's open junction boxes in the house. Those need to be closed. You know, there's plumbing issues, you know, sometimes leaking, that needs to be fixed. If there's any structural issues, that needs to be fixed. But there's so many different things that they'll ding you for. You know, I don't like having a huge inspection, but then on the other side, it's up to the investor on like Tim wants this, it's very pristine. So we want to make sure we got a lot of those little things done and out of the way so nobody sees. Nobody has anything to complain about, you know, because that does give you or the buyer a general idea of what condition the house is in. If they get that report, there's a ton of things on there because you're trying to save money, you didn't do it all. They're going to look a lot harder into like, you know, the items in the list and stuff. On the reverse, I've had people that looked at the list or looked at the house and there was very few things on there. So they looked harder to come up with more things that inspectors did because they felt like they had to. You know? So it's just kind of, some of the stuff is just showing stuff that is on.
And, you know, for me, I am fussy about my houses, but I also believe that the less I give them to pick at, the less they can pick at, and the less they're gonna try and nickel and dime me to death and Jew me down on my offer price. Because I don't want to come down on my offer. You know, I want
Not
to
only
max
that,
it
it gives
price.
the impression, well, this guy did a great job rehabbing stuff.
Right.
Because rehabbers have gotten a bad rap.
That's
There's
right.
a bunch of idiots out there, so lipstick on it and stuff. You know, so I mean, it just depends upon your personality and your person.
So back to your example of the guy that had 3 consecutive lists. When you go in to work with somebody, do you have those kind of lists in mind?
Kind of, I mean, there's a lot of basic stuff you should do. Like, for instance, one of the newer things that came out is all within 6 feet of any water source should be a GFI protected island. Now it's changed, so anywhere there's a countertop, whether it's a barn, there's no water within 20 feet, it still has to be GFI protected. I have no clue why. You know, just the government interference. But so there's a lot of little things like that, and they go, you know, should we put a GFI here? And I'll ask them what the GFI is. GFI is $30. You know, and it's not that it's only $30. $30 for this little item, $80 for this little item. You have to get your lunch up. You know, so
And then the labor.
and the labor for it, and you know, so there's a lot of. I always go in there looking for stuff like that. I look for the bigger problems because that's what's going to cost them. If it comes down to the bucket, put a regular outlet in. You know, I'm a proponent of told Tim 100 times, keep the money in your pocket. You know, because that extra $50, give it to some charity. Do that rather than putting it into an outlet that you're never going to get your money out. You know, do something good with that. But if you do that, if you put a regular outlet there and the inspector can't find anything else, and they were an electrical guy, and they go, oh, that's gotta be GFI protected. Okay, I'll put the GFI in for you. Just give him a nice guy. You know, because then it does come back. If the buyer says, I want these 10 items done, you know, that's all grandfathered. They won't do a thing. The buyer can walk. You know, and then you gotta go through the whole process of that. But if you go through there, I always go through the list, any safety related items. I say you want to do these. And if there's some cheap and expensive items that you can do, like that GFI or something, you do it. So that way, hey, I do a 7 out of 10 items. That makes you look like, you know, you're good and you know, want this stuff.
So when you're walking with the initial buy, right, do you try to account for those things in your estimate?
Kind of sort of. Again, I'm a little different. Some contractors will go through and they'll count every individual outlet, because if I'm going to spend $3 in your house, I want to make sure that I'm going to make up for it. You know, I don't really do that. I just kind of every room has 4 outlets and 1 light switch most of the time. So I know how many things are in each room. I come up with a price. If it's going to be $600 to do all the electrical in the house, if it costs me $620 to do the electrical pad. You know, because I'm going to make a little bit of money here doing the paint, and I'm going to make a little bit here doing the electrical, a little bit of the fun. It's all washed. You get the product you want. And to me, it's not worth my time to nickel and dime something over $20 item. It costs me more money to do it and just tell them my guys.
I guess my question is more towards when I get the inspection repair list at the end. Are we working towards that, right? Because I'm like,
for money or for not, you mean for a cost?
well, for my value, I'd be more like, I'd want a pristine list where they had no negotiation tool whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, that's all that is we want the house cheaper because it's got all these items.
Yeah, they have negotiated.
Right.
With Tim, I mean, Tim's was a pretty pristine house. I don't know how this happened, but a good example is upstairs out of the master, there's this tiny little, 16 by 8 deck. And, for some reason, we painted that, we did all the outside stuff, but we never changed that outlet. Never got changed, and it wasn't geographic checked. And that came up in the report, so yeah, we have to do that. So when Tim sent me the list of 4, 5, 6 things that we had to fix, then when I looked at that GFI, and we were an idiot, we missed that somehow. So then that got fixed, and on his invoice for the buyer's repair list, at least on mine, it says no charge for that, because I should have been doing that house. Then they wanted a couple of things. They wanted all new decking on that deck. We replaced the rotten ones, which was like 5 boards, and we painted everything. They wanted all of them. So we went in there with all of them. That's the additional cost. So that's where the list can kind of, each up a little bit. And then when you have that list, you can say, okay, they want me to replace these deck boards. So how much is that going to cost me? I put down, I charge $8,000 for that.
Yeah, it was, I meant to talk to you about that.
Put a dollar amount to every one of these. And then, say all the items, everything they want comes up to $1,600. Sometimes you're better off if you know that they're a picky type person, give them $2,000 concession for it. Because if I've gotten in this back and forth before with people where the seller says, hey, I want you to do this. The buyer wanted this, but he's only doing half the job. So I'm only going to do what I'm paid for. But then this guy comes back, oh, no, that's not right. He tells me, oh, no, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. Well, that's not what you told me originally. This is what I did. So sometimes you just got to kind of work the deal. Every deal is a little different if you're going to do the work or if you're just going to set session.
So on this deck though, just to clarify, they wanted the loose boards fixed. Well, that was about half the deck. So I had you do the whole deck.
The whole deck, yeah.
Because I couldn't see half the deck with new lumber and half with really weathered, twisted lumber that, I mean, it was, you know what I'm talking about, it's really worn. It just, why give it to them that way rather than just spend a couple $100 more or 1,000 more,
2,000.
and just make it pretty and nice, I mean, I'm not trying to save, that much money. I don't need to pinch pennies that much. I want them to have.
It makes it more impressive when they go up there and wow, we only asked for this and we gave you this.
Exactly.
Then they're not really as picky on other things. But those buyers, especially, they can add up. But it depends upon. That's the balance, and that's what becomes your personality as an investor. Do I go ahead and just fix all these things during the rehab portion? That's going to add $5,000 in the rehab, or do we kind of? I don't want to say the things we can get away with, but we leave it until the end. And then if it comes up in inspection, then we fix it then, and it costs me $3,000 to fix it instead of $5,000. Which kind of way, everything's got to be presentable. You got to be the best thing in the area of presenting when your house is sold there. But it's kind of just that balance.
And the other thing that it's just a personal thing is that I do is I take that home inspection and even the things they didn't ask for, if it's simple enough to do, I do it anyway. And then I let them know I fixed this also. Just to kind of let them know, hey, we're doing the best we can do for you. And I mean, I've just had really good luck with using this strategy and getting things closed and buyers not fussing about the quality of the house or trying to change the pricing or anything. So, but everybody's got to do what works for you. And fortunately for me, I can do a lot of things.
You bought the house.
Yeah.
Some people can't do a lot of stuff.
That's right.
They didn't buy a
And
house.
I bought-
They wanted to get a house so bad, they paid too much for the house, and now they can't fix it up the way they want to. And they want to start, they'll talk to me and tell me, hey, I need to bring the prices down because I can't fit it in the way we put it in. It's not that far. If you buy the house wrong, you can choose what you want to do, or do some of the stuff yourself, or however you need to do it. Very important. That's why I say you make the money when you buy the house. So if you lose a house because you put in $6,000 for an AC system and they got to get, and he went for it. It's kind of, it's going to make a €25,000 on that house. You can make 19,000 on it. To me, as long as I'm making money, it's a good thing. Maximize my profits. But we're talking about buying houses with no money down or anything like that. And the way I do my house is my return on investment is infinite because I have no money invested. So, there's a difference if you get You know, if you're earning 18-20%, what some people will do is some people will put their own money into their projects and not pay themselves interest, which I've never understood that. You know, they have $100,000 in 401 or something that they're using, and they're gonna use that as a rehab portion of it, pay yourself interest back. Because that should be, your real estate business should be a separate entity. Where you're an investor, just like your mom gave you some money, and you want to pay mom, you do the same exact thing. You know, but then, you know, as tax reasons, you take it on the tax thing. And then that's it.
Was that good or what?
Is there any other rehab questions or anything?
So in your business in particular, you turnkey it? Everything?
Yeah, I'm a turnkey, a consultant. We'll do, if somebody calls me and say, hey, I just need help out with flooring. I'll either, if it's enough stuff where I can go out and I feel justified in charges, I'm a general, I got general insurance, general liability, and my time involved and everything else. So if I'm gonna mark up that item, I gotta justify my time. And if I'm gonna do that, and it's gonna make me $600 or $800 by giving it, it's more advantageous to me to just hook you up with a flooring guy. And I just call a flooring guy, and he's a friend of mine, they will take care of it.
So you line item?
I line item everything.
And so if a customer wants to do the demo because they're industrious and they take their whole family.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Yeah,
they do that, but
Oh, yeah. I do a line item. What I won't do is when I do a line item on like a turnkey project and then go through, okay, I'm gonna do this one, my uncle's gonna do this one, I want you to do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. We wind up doing 3 things out of the 20 that are on there. You know, so, it's not, you're too far advanced in order to hire a contractor. And I'll tell you, if you need a handyman, you can use a flooring guy yourself because you have the ability to do the general work yourself. I think that some people try to have a false sense of savings is where they think they can do it themselves to save money, and they can do it themselves, fully capable. But what are you losing if you're not out there working? You know, if you're working every night and every weekend on this house, that's putting stress on your marriage, putting stress between your kids. You know, they got a way out of what they're doing. You know, sometimes it's easy to just pay somebody to do it.
There's stress on your back too.
Yeah, you know that.
I pulled a lot of trees and bushes from this house in Rutherford.
Yeah, I think so. People just, hey, I never another pile of trees you would bring up a trailer pick up for me. Gee, thanks, buddy.
All right,
You guys have
any more questions for Paul?
Good. If you have any questions you want to come up with the property, we'll do whatever we can to help people out. So I'd rather come out and help people out and stuff and somebody make up $5,000 or something. Once again,
Thank you, Paul.
sure,
Yeah.
Good job.
yes.
Lenny, do you have a phone?
All right, just got a